I just wanted to make a point, make it simple, probably not long, even though I have said that before and it ended up going an hour. You know, I think there's videos, more than one, where I've said it's going to be short and it ended up going like 45 minutes or an hour or more. You can search online, read articles, read the Bible, listen to other people, listen to ministers, listen to preachers all day long, every day, and you'll never come to a knowledge of truth unless you deny yourself. You cannot have it. He won't give it to you. You won't see it with spiritual eyes what these words really mean. Okay, they have a carnal understanding of everything. Like the Trinity example, no, these are all gods, and then these three are one God, and none of these are the other, but all three are gods, and then these three are the one God I worship. There's nothing spiritual about that at all. Ask them to give me the spiritual understanding of this. They're going to have to make something up, man. They're going to have to make something up, think on their own. Let me think. I'll just make something up. Hold on. Hold on. I don't ask God. I don't hear his voice. I don't hear the shepherd's voice. Just give me a minute. Let me make something up with my own carnal mind. One verse. One verse. If you fully understand one verse, it's going to lead you into all truth. Lead you into. You won't have it all at once. Lean not on your own understanding. That comes from Old Testament scripture. That lines up with deny yourself. It always taught this all along. It's just that there was no spiritual man that could truly do that yet until Christ and then afterwards. And that's how you understand it. That's how you understand how on earth could David and other people kill their enemies. Because they were all carnal, all of them. Eye for eye. That was the proper, God dishing out eye for eye, tooth for tooth through his people. It's God doing it. They're not on their own accord. There was no spiritual man that could fulfill the law, not only do all those things, but fulfill it in his temple. In his heart, he understood what all these things meant spiritually, and he could do them. But he kept all the shadow things, okay, and fulfilled them properly. There's no longer need for eye for eye because he's spiritual now. He's not 6 anymore. He's not created. He was, he's not created on day 6. He became spiritual, and he was from birth, poured out the Spirit of God from birth. If there was an advantage, that's the advantage he had. Not that he's God and he's so far above, we have nothing to relate to him, is that he had the Spirit poured out on him from birth in a strong way, in such a way that he would fulfill everything perfectly. But he was tempted, though. Don't even think for a second it wasn't hard for him. He had trouble, persecution within the temple, suffering within the temple, tribulation and distress. Who didn't want to get nailed to the cross, to the stake? He didn't. If there's another way, I know what the scriptures say. I know the prophecies. But if there's another way, if there's just one other way, show me that way. Show me. I hope there is. But not my will. Your will be done. Okay? Denial of himself. He didn't say those words just to make it sound like he's a man. That came from the heart. He didn't want to go and get beat up and tortured and die, And that's what happens to the saint spiritually, okay? That's the picture, what he went through physically, naturally. And some even, last 2,000 years, some even experience the same physically. And at the end that's coming up here, many of them will. Many of them will. And maybe they even will go to something as dirty and filthy as cutting your head off, Cutting the saint's head off instead of just shooting you or something. Maybe they'll go back to the old brutal way. I don't know. But the point is, he didn't fake that. He wasn't joking around. He didn't just say, if he faked that and said that just to look like he was a man and like everyone else, that means his heart wasn't That means his heart's intentions were corrupt. He's doing something to trick people. False. Doing something false. Every word that came out of his mouth was true. He didn't want to die. That part of him, that man in him, but see God's grace in him, working over him, his spirit. Always not my will, but your will be done. And that's what you're going to find in your life too. I don't want to do this. Show me something else. Is there another way? Is there another way? Probably not, but is there? Just in case. But not my will, your will be done. People don't do this. People don't do this. The people that are not coming to knowledge of truth, they don't do this. Deny yourself. They're too prideful. And there's some out there that know this truth, have a lot of knowledge, and they themselves haven't truly denied themselves. Because that would be to kill the beast, wouldn't it? Destroy it. Start destroying that beast fully, denying the beast, the self. That's the difference between a wolf in sheep's clothing and a real sheep. One will have not denied themselves. They could have a lot of knowledge. They could have some kind of truth. They drag in disciples after themselves. They seek their own glory. This is what's happening. It's happening on the online world. Don't think for a second that most of these people, I'm not saying everyone, I'm not saying there's not some gems out there, gem here and there, very rare. Most of them seek their own glory. The intentions from the heart are corrupt on why they do whatever they do. You got to believe God's word. He will not be found a liar. He is not going to say, this is who all people are, you know. They seek their own glory. And then on Judgment Day, well, 40% of them seek their own glory. The rest of them that were carnal, didn't come to knowledge of truth. They were truly humble. Nope. 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 A wolf in sheep's clothing, just picture it physically. You got to understand the natural. And he told that teacher that came into him in the dark. Why did he do that? He didn't want others to see him, right? He didn't want others to see what he was doing, going up to the, Messiah. He told him, if you don't understand earthly things, natural things, it's another way of saying natural, how are you going to understand heavenly things, spiritual things that are not natural according to your natural understanding? If you can't even understand a wolf in sheep's clothing, okay, it's a sheep. It's a sheep's clothing. You will not see the difference between a true sheep. That's how deceptive it is. It's shaped and clothed like a sheep, but inside it has the nature of a wolf. There's no difference. They look the same. This is not a joke when he said this, wolves in sheep clothing, and they come and tear the sheep and they try to hop the fence and come in some other way. This is not a joke. This is happening spiritually. God's not going to be found a liar. Those people in those temples look like sheep. It's deceptive. They smile a lot. They wave, okay? I know it's deceptive, but I see through them. Because the spiritual man discerns all things. The Spirit of God in you searches all things. It's always searching. It's like little antennas, Oh yeah, these are all false. Thank you for showing me. Thank you for showing me. The spirit sees the other spirit that it's false, but it looks like a sheep, okay? It looks like it. They're not on this path. That's my point. They haven't denied themselves. So there's a lot of people looking online, searching, studying, trying to find a disciple that they could, gather together with a false understanding of what they're doing. They're becoming one. And the intentions of these people are false. They really do want to gather disciples unto themselves. It's going to look like the real thing in a way, okay? Because that's why it's deceptive. It's going to match in a lot of ways what a true disciple does. A true disciple does help the sheep. But in no way, shape, or form is he the leader and ruler over the sheep. Never. And they have no intention or desire to. And you won't find them talking like this, okay? Because they can't talk like this. Some of them may even say that That's even more deceptive though. But overall, it's all about themselves. It's all about themselves. They don't care or have a love for truth. It's just seeking your own glory. They have like a love for seeking out what they think is true in their mind. They think they're seeking truth, and they want to find something that nobody else found, and then gather a bunch of disciples after them. And I'm your leader. I'm your ruler to follow me rest of your lives. Christ taught his disciples. He was a true disciple, Christ. He taught his disciples, but he didn't rule over them, and I'll prove it. He didn't rule over them or had that intention. That he guided them. That's all, a guide to the Father until they can walk on themselves, and start eating food themselves. Baby can't feed itself. You think God didn't create this with this in mind, so you could picture the natural first and then understand the spiritual? That it's like this? A baby has to be guided, taken care of, fed for a while, and then the disciple expects it to start feeding itself. They're grown up to where they can hear God's voice, and in the beginning they can't feed themselves. Baby can't feed themselves. So when you're born again, and then the man thought he was talking about literally being born again and didn't even understand the natural understanding really of what a spiritual man is. You're born from God, conceived by the Spirit, has nothing to do with flesh, it's spirit. In the beginning, you're a spiritual baby that needs help, needs a little help. It can't feed itself. That's the purpose. That's the purpose. Okay, I'll use a verse. Feed my sheep. Lord, I love you. I love you. Well, then feed my sheep. Second time. No, Lord, you're making me sad because you don't believe that I love you. If you love me, feed my sheep. How many times? 3 times, the perfect thing. Did he have the Spirit yet? Did he have the full understanding yet? No, not yet. That's why he told him 3 times, so he'll remember. But that's the perfect thing. If you love me, feed my sheep. What do the people who don't love him? They're feeding the sheep lies and deceptions. That's the difference. That's the only difference. They're leading him into a ditch instead of leading him to the Father. They don't have anything to do with ruling over him. Just leading him to the Father, that's all. And then the shepherd, Messiah, will guide you. You'll hear his voice. You'll start growing. There's like 4 Greek words that are all translated like pretty much the same. Or you won't know that these are the Greek words about maturing. There's like a Greek word for baby, like a young boy, like a man, and then someone that's like mature. It's 4 or 5 or something. Paul talks about it. Someone that's mature, perfect, perfected. You have to actually become mature. That's the goal. You can't be carnal and a baby all your life. And lukewarm is no good, so you have to be mature. But he'll get you there. He'll get you there. You'll acknowledge, how on earth am I going to do this? This is a huge thing to overcome, this whole world. Don't fear. I overcame the world, so can you. Not on your own power, Christ didn't do it by his own power, so you don't either. I destroyed the devil and the works of the devil, he said. So will you. So will you. You have to go on the same path. He learned from his sufferings. That's what we read. He learned from his suffering. So it won't be like an easy path every day. Every day is like, I'm at the top, spiritual high, just on the top, on the mountains every day. No, it's not going to be like that every day. You'll have that, but it's not going to be like that every day. It's going to be, sometimes he lets you go a little bit. Then you have to have patience and wait. Why is there so many scriptures on waiting on the Lord? I will wait on the Lord. Just going to wait for him. And you have the natural understanding first in the scriptures. Now it's spiritual. If you wait, he will come. He's not going to forsake you, It's not going to totally let you go and let if you're faithless, He's still faithful. He can't deny himself. So there is a confidence, like if you're the chosen are not going to be dropped and just thrown out. He says, by no means will I cast them out. So it does teach those who are truly his cannot fall. But at no point can you ever have that mindset or believe that you're one of them fully. You know, like say it past tense. Yeah, I'm chosen. I'm done. I'm saved. You can't have that mindset. As soon as you do, you're going to start falling. How do you know for sure you're not Saul? How do you know for sure you're not Judas? How do you know? Isn't that prideful to think you are already? I'm already saved because I understand a lot of truth. I'm on this path and God's going to take me all the way because no, you could be a Judas. You could look like a real disciple and then betray him. Now, if you are his elect, that won't happen, but you can't have that mindset. Find me a verse that says you can have this mindset. There is no such thing. Does it teach that the elect cannot fall? Yeah, it does, but you don't know for sure who they are and if you truly are. So you got to stay with it, you know. Yes, it's God doing the works, and he's the one that causes you to stay with it. But this is how we talk. This is how we understand it. You can't teach the opposite. Oh, you're elect. Go and do whatever you want now. You have certain doctrines, therefore you're elect. You're going to fall. You're going to fall. I'm repeating another verse from a video. If you think you stand tall, Paul said, if you think you stand tall, take heed lest you fall. What does that mean spiritually? The perfect meaning of that. Thinking you're done, thinking you're saved, thinking you're chosen. I'm standing tall. I'm done. I made it. And you could do the very thing that the whole church world does. Isn't that, how deceptive is that? What you expose the whole church world for doing, saying they're saved, you yourself could end up being like that because now you have knowledge and now you're prideful and puffed up and then you fall away. It's that deceptive. That's why you have to watch. Christ told his disciples to watch and pray. What? For what? Like I said in one of my videos, for the enemy. What? For back then in the natural thing? Get on the post. Watch for the enemy. Blow the trumpet when you see him coming. Yeah, I'm watching and I'm praying. I'm watching. There they come. There's the enemy. Get ready. Get ready to have war and defeat them. And we believe in God, and he's going to give us the power to overcome the enemy. They're coming. They're coming. I'm warning you. They're coming. And then they get ready and they fight and they win the battle against the flesh, against carnality. It's not any different spiritually. You got to watch on the tower and watch for sin, the enemy, and people, Gentiles. They're the spiritual Gentiles, the enemy that are going to spiritually try to take you down, spiritually murder you. You got to watch, and then God will defeat the enemies for you spiritually. This has nothing to do with flesh and blood or hating them. Within and the people outside, Watch and pray lest you be tempted. That's what he told them. They didn't get it. They just went to sleep. They were carnal. What do you mean watch and pray? For what? I'm carnal. Watch and pray for what? I'm good. I'm sitting by the tree. I'm feeling pretty good. It's a nice day. Watch for what? What are you talking about? Oh, they would know after. They would hear those words after they received the Spirit. Carnal people cannot hear these words. They have no idea what I'm talking about. Watch for what? I go to church. I do whatever I want. The carnal man doesn't understand watch and pray for temptation. So we have a physical example, a physical picture of Christ telling his disciples to watch, and they all fell asleep. They were carnal still. They were being led up to. They believed, but they were being led up to receiving the Spirit. That's how he drags his disciples in. Like I said, it's not the old days of Jerusalem. Get on a post and watch for the enemy. Sound the trumpet, watch and pray. Tell the other people that they're coming, the enemy's coming, and God's going to, take care of the enemy for us if we believe in him. He's going to take care of the enemy. And destroy the flesh, the carnality. That's what it really represents. So spiritually, he's going to take care of the enemy. You're watching and praying spiritually on the post. The enemy comes, it tempts you. People come and tempt you. Gentiles, unbelievers, they're going to tempt you to sin. They do that. They like to do that. They don't even know they're doing it. That's what's crazy. Think I haven't experienced this? They've tried to get you to sin. They want to see one mistake because they see something off about you. They don't like you. They just want to see you slip up once so they can run away saying, yes, there's nobody that's really converted, so I can go on in my life, you know? That's what they want to do. They don't even know they're doing it. So you have to watch and pray on the spiritual post for the temptation and for other people that are going to try to mess with you spiritually. They're going to try to mess with you. He gives you the proper words when this happens, wherever it happens, when you're in trouble, when the enemy is attacking, you know, he gives you the proper words so that they can't contradict you. You're just going to have to walk away and, you know, angry. They'll just walk away angry, make up something in their mind. Yeah, he is prideful. Yeah, he's God. He thinks he's God. That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's how the carnal man works, because that's how I was. I remember how it is to be carnal, although it's starting to get hard to remember, honestly. Such a different path change. It's like hard to believe that's actually who I was. You know, that's stupid. Jealous, wrathful, always right in my own mind, always right. Never wrong. The beast is never wrong. Even when it's wrong, it's never really wrong. That's carnality. That's not denying yourself. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. The wolves in sheep clothing don't deny themselves. The sheep deny themselves. But God gets you to do that, but you do have to do that. They don't know what it means. They don't know what it truly means. It's to literally think you're worthless and cannot do anything that God requires, cannot understand truth. All of this happens in your heart. You literally do that, and you deny yourself. Then you start on this path. That's it. Then you'll hear his voice. If you don't do that, you'll never hear his voice. You'll hear all kinds of voices. You know, like someone that's out of their minds, you know, that hears voices in their head. But spiritually, they're hearing all kinds of voices. They don't know which direction to go. They hear a disciple over here, a disciple over there. They come and follow, and they go, and they change church building. You know, they're always hearing voices. They don't have anything solid. The purpose of a true disciple is just to feed the sheep. They don't do any more, and they don't claim anymore. They don't want to rule over you with like a rod of iron. Christ told Peter, 3 times? Feed my sheep, feed my sheep, feed my sheep. He didn't get it yet. He didn't understand it yet. But when the Spirit came, he understood it. And then a few years later, he understood that even deeper than he did in the beginning. Because you just don't have the understanding given right away. The deep thing. Feed my sheep, don't rule them. The Gentiles, they like to rule, and they search and love these things, and they lordship over each other, and they rule over people. For you it shall not be so. And then he set the example, he washed their feet. That doesn't sound like ruling to me at all. Nope, just feed them. Never rule over them. He himself was a servant, so you can't be greater than that. If the master was a servant, you can't be any more than that. But the wolves in sheep clothing look like disciples, and it's deceptive. They literally look like sheep. If God doesn't give you the Spirit, you will not see who they are. You won't. I couldn't see it. And so nobody that's carnal can actually see that. You have to, you know, Paul, there's so much in Paul's writings, you know, test this. Well, that's actually somewhere else, test it. But he says the same thing. There are other gods. There's another Jesus, another gospel. He said all those things for a reason, because they really are. They believe in another Christ, you know. They're of a different spirit. Test all the spirits, because they're not all from God. They might look like it, but they're not. And so there really is not that many. There's few. I believe it really is only 144,000, because I don't know any scripture in the Old Testament that uses 144,000 as some kind of metaphor, the numbers themselves, you know. We know certain numbers mean things, 7, 10, 3, okay? And they're used many times. But this is 144,000 it's a literal number. I believe it. Because there's always been many called, few chosen. And then the rest, like I said, the number that can't be numbered are all the saints from all time. But at the end, there's only 144,000. And the rest of them, where did these come from? They're all the saints from Adam to the end. That's the understanding. These are spiritual Jews connected to Abraham through the promise. Has nothing to do with blood. There might be a few blood Jews, and then most of them are Gentiles. There's only 100. I haven't done the math yet. I'm going to do it. I'm curious. 7-something billion people divided, 144,000. Is that 0.1%? Is it 0.05? Is it 0.01? Is it 0.2? I'm not sure yet. They're not on this path, and it's hard to describe this to someone, carnal person. They don't they don't hear me. They think they're doing everything right. Literally, there's nothing wrong with them, nothing. You can't get through them, just like Christ, didn't get through the Pharisees because they weren't given. They weren't given. They weren't gods. If they were gods, they would hear the shepherd's voice and come. But most of them don't. And this knowledge is both like a double-edged sword. You see his truth. It's amazing. Wow, everything God says is actually true. Wow, almost too true. And at the same time, it might be, a little disappointing because there's nobody truly seeking the Father. They have faulty intentions. They didn't deny themselves. There's nobody around you. And it's just been given to me. I really believe it says this for a reason. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, then he's there in, assuming true believers, not someone false, then he's there with them. 2 or 3, because maybe that's all it is. Most of the time is 2 or 3 in the flesh. I don't know of anyone else that's on this path here. Call a couple people. I don't know anyone in the flesh and around me. It's not that I hate any of them, good to all of them, no hatred. He does that in you. You won't hate them. You won't be jealous of them. And it's true. It's not false. It's not false humility. But you can't be, they have nothing to do with the truth. They're not like-minded. And you fear his judgments. You don't want to be found worthless. Because you could see it now. He gave you to see the vision. That this is not a joke, Everyone has to go through this judgment. And the judgment starts on the house of God, which is those who believe now. They're the especially saved. God is the Savior of all people, but especially of believers. Command and teach these things right in their face. God says, here. At the end, there's going to be trillions of Bibles everywhere. Everyone's going to have one at their homes. They're all going to, oh yeah, go ahead, read it. See if you can understand it. I'm God. There's no one like me. I tell you, you can't understand. You can't lean on your own understanding. You won't believe it. You're going to all think you understand yourself, Here, Bible in every home. Doesn't matter. Think it's crazy. He's not worried. He's not worried his word isn't true. It's going to be found perfectly true. Everybody's got Bibles, and even a lot of people that don't go to church have leftover Bibles or something, and they kind of just walked away from religion or something. A lot of people have Bibles. And everybody's heard about Bibles, pretty much. Pretty much the whole world has heard about something about Christianity or the gospel, false gospel. So I think it's mind-numbing that you cannot get truth unless you deny yourself and seek him. Lean not on your own understanding. So should I teach the opposite? Lean on your own understanding, break his word. But they do that. They come into church, and listen to their ministers, and they really believe. And these people leaned on their own understanding, see? But then these people come in, and then they believe their words, and they're eating unclean food. That didn't go away. God showed me what that means. If you eat pork, it's not going to defile you. If you want to eat it, no condemnation. If you don't want to eat it and you just want to respect it, not because you think you're righteous, you just want to eat cleaner foods, it's probably not as healthy. No condemnation. But what does it mean spiritually? You can't eat unclean food. It's going to start damaging your spiritual body instead of your physical body, you know? You eat a lot of junk. So spiritually, you can't eat unclean food. You can only eat whatever God allows you to eat. And those are feed my sheep. These are the true disciples that speak true words, and they feed spiritual food. You can eat this food. But how are you going to know if you're not seeking him who they are? And somebody might be a little plant, somebody might be a little tree, and somebody might have been on this path for 40 years, you know, like in the desert. They've been burned and tested, and they might be that giant tree already, you know. So Paul says to be careful. Somebody could be that little plant, and they're, you know, babies can't feed themselves. So spiritual baby can't really feed themselves yet. They need to grow to the point where they can feed them. Not that they do it, you know. Paul did this a lot. Look, don't take me literally. Not that, you know, and I find I have to do that all the time. You know, don't take it literally. I have to speak carnally so you understand a spiritual truth. God's the one doing all the works, no doubt, but you do have to get to the point where you eat yourself and not just on bread alone, not just Christ. You can't do it without the bread, but by every word. And I didn't know this 7 years ago. I didn't know it 6 years ago. I didn't know it 5 years ago. Yeah, I read those words. Don't live by, it just was dead to me. It didn't click. You know, it didn't fully, it's blind. It's a blinding. That's why his word is hidden. You cannot understand it unless he gives you the meaning, and this word just pops out, and then all of a sudden it means something. It's not that I haven't been on this path or understanding a lot of things, but I didn't fully comprehend. You cannot live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of his mouth. That's more new for me. That's recent. It took 7 years. It's not a joke. Hopefully someone gets that in 2 years. I hope. If they do, they're in a better shape than I am. It took me 7 years to fully comprehend and see that. And he is the bread. So you can't live on Messiah alone. What does this mean? I believe in Jesus. I believe in Jesus. You can't do that. You can't just say you believe in Jesus and that's it. If you do, well, then you have all the other scriptures. If you do, you'll keep my commandments. You know, if you love me, you'll do this. Deny yourself. Follow every word, you know. And the scriptures too, the Old Testament. Every word is true. This means something spiritual. Like I said, you can't eat unclean food. That's spiritual. Sabbath day is spiritual. You're resting from your works. You know you're not working anymore. If there's something that needs burned out, you say, take it away. I'm not going to try to quit. You want me to get rid of this? Then do it. Do it. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. You acknowledge you can't do it. And then he'll do it whenever he does it. That's how it works. That's how under grace works. You're not in condemnation. But you do have to clean up in all these things, see? And the more you clean up and get away from the flesh, the more life you have. So you do reap what you sow. That never goes away. But he's not condemning you. But these people they sprouted and died a long time ago. They're not on this path. So therefore, they are not truly in grace. Therefore, they are under condemnation still. And they don't have these things, you know. They have to rely on the world. They have to rely on the riches, businesses, and keep their mind on the world because they don't really have faith. They don't have the true faith. That's what I see. And I could see that I could not see these things until I could see these things. Wolf in sheep clothing. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. Trust me, it doesn't mean anything to these people. It didn't mean anything to me in the beginning. Wolf in sheep clothing. Okay, what about it? 7 years later, it's like, wow, this is more true than I thought. Now this really means something. They're everywhere. You were right. These people don't actually love or care about you at all, but they pretend they do, and they do a pretty good job of pretending. Wow, you know, this is really true. This is crazy. Didn't mean anything at first. You just read it, and that's it. You just read it. There's the doors are shut. The doors are shut. You just read it. Oh, wolf in sheep clothing. I think I could handle this. You know, I know who they are. No, you don't. He has to show you who they are. You don't know these things until he shows you. And his truth, that God is the Savior of all, it all inspires and lines up with loving your enemy. This is how you're able to love your enemies, you know, because you know he's the Savior of all. Just a bunch of nonsense, right? Who can hear these words? They thought Christ's words were hard. Man, these are hard words. Who can hear them? You know, and he started talking about eating his flesh and drinking blood and other stuff. That's like, what is he talking about? You know, they couldn't see what that meant, to eat his flesh, drink his blood. You know, and that's it, I guess. Probably the last one for the day.